Objection! Hello everypony! Today we dive into the second half of the Kenbucky Roller Derby series with issues 3 through 5. So to recap, the group is now being coached by roller derby veteran Tracy Tail Spin to help out their less than stellar team, who will soon compete against the local bully team in the Kenbucky Roller Derby. Let's get right down to it and go over the plot of issue number 3, where we finally go into the backstory of their coach and learn why she left the sport. Back in the day when Tracy was elected to be the new captain of her 9-time consecutive winning team, the Dazzlebrook Dynamites, the stress of leading the team and learning new and complex derby moves occupied too much of her time, leading to the team's loss and her subsequent retirement. Before we move on, let's take a quick look at the art, where we have Heather Breckle and Kate Sharon. Sharon previously did the art for the Big Hoof comics, and comparatively, there is some improvement, especially with the perspectives, as the ponies look just off in Big Hoof. For the most part, the presentation is okay, except for one detail: the eyes. Typically, smaller pupils are used to indicate fear or anger, yet there are several times throughout the story where the characters will just deliver casual dialogue and they'll have small pupils. It's out of place and kind of distracting. Anyway, moving on to the actual story. Now, we've been building up this backstory for Tracy for 2 issues now, and honestly, it feels like kind of a letdown. We do see that she pushed her old teammates to the limit with this crazy game strategy called the Loop-de-Loop Triple Haymaker, which led to some accidents like injuries and broken skates, but nothing life-threatening. In penance for her mistake, Tracy elects to participate in the derby alone and gets thoroughly stumped, which does show the strength of her resolve, and afterwards the team praises and reconciles with her, and Tracy retires shortly afterwards. Yeah, she did push her team to the limit, but that just goes with the territory of the sport. And her going solo in her match ironically elevated her character and veteran status even more. She lost, but standing her ground against another team alone would have made her much more sought-after recruit for another team. Tracy claims she left because she needed to clear her head, but really nothing happened that warranted the retirement from the sport. So the whole backstory, at least from that perspective, doesn't leave much of an impact. Although this plot point does work from a mentor perspective. She's demonstrated her knowledge of how to properly motivate others, like in issue number 1, helping Sunny find her confidence, or in issue number 2, where she rightfully calls out the pseudo-alicorn for recklessly challenging the Slammers to a match at the Kenbucky Roller Derby, or even something simple like in this issue, where she recommends rest to Zip and the others, which shows how much of a good leader she can be. So, despite the somewhat disappointing retirement angle, the story had some decent development, and the derby match itself, while short, had some good action as well. All things considered, not a bad issue. But of course, the G5 comics have this amazing ability to impress me 1 minute and disappoint me another, which leads us into issue number 4. This comic just makes a whole lot of questionable decisions. Let's start off simple. The gang are going over new strategies along with their Pegasnails, where they use their slime as a slick track or sticky track, which I'm pretty sure would be illegal in the sport, but I guess not, as that trick seems to fly during an actual bout. Yeah, imagine using smoke grenades in buckball or football, or dropping oil slicks in a car race. Gotta love it when your heroes resort to cheating to win. Something else that's been going on in the background of the previous comics with Izzy is she's been painting miniatures all the while developing quests, which originally seemed out of place, but now finally comes to fruition as she helps guide her friends in this D&D style training adventure.
Feeling brave tonight? How brave? Brave enough to do battle with hideous monsters? Brave enough to sneak around dank castles in the dark and chance being the next victim?
This was a nice little sequence, as it made it a much more interesting training session rather than just bob and weave through these cups. Then we get a plot point that feels completely shoehorned in, which is the Kenbucky Roller Derby entrance fee. We as the audience can just gather that they paid the entrance fee, but the story introduces this dilemma, and it's not only pointless, but it's made worse by the Bully Slammer's return, and oh, for the love of really? We're gonna have them sabotage Sunny and the others again? What happens is the main 6 and the others promote this activity day at the rec center to raise money, and the bullies steal all their stuff. But to save face, the gang then turns it into this mystery kind of scavenger hunt thing. Ugh. Look, I've already discussed why the stereotypical bully characters are bad, so I'm just gonna show my rant again from Dragon Quest. You know why this bully archetype is bad from a storytelling perspective? It's because they're not interesting, they're not well developed, and they're just forgettable artificial tools for moving the plot and characters forward. The slammers are just annoying, uninteresting obstacles and nothing more. Also, Sunny and half the town catch one slammer admitting they stole all the stuff. So we now have multiple witnesses hearing they stole what looks like a fairly expensive decor. So, can Hits not just throw them in jail? You know, like what would happen in real life? Of course not, because we live in a universe that doesn't have rules. Alright, let's just move on to the final issue. One of the more baffling scenes in this issue is now Misty suddenly joins Sunny's team. Prior to this, the one-dimensional bully characters take out Hitch by gluing his skates, causing him to trip and hurt his leg. And Misty now finally decides to leave the Slammers because of this act. Why she didn't decide to leave with the obvious abusive nature of the Slammers or other various sabotaging just baffles me. But here's the bigger issue. Misty knows that the Slammers intentionally injured Hitch, which means we now have accounts of assault, battery, and theft from stealing all the stuff in the previous issue on behalf of the Slammers, which, if not jail time, would at least lead to disqualification from the event, right?
You stupid.
Okay, yes, Misty does say the coach suspended the two bullies specifically, but still, it feels like all these crimes just were swept under the rug and not taken seriously. At least during their bout, Sunny's team did actually defeat the Slammer, so they at least got that one up on their rivals. The action scenes for the competitions are pretty good, flowing very well from one panel to another, but again, I question the validity of using slime in a competition, as it's still basically cheating. They do ultimately win second place, which does feel realistic, as if they actually won first, it wouldn't feel warranted. And there's really not much to say about the final issue, except it was okay. And that concludes the Kenbucky Roller Derby series. How was it? Again, it was okay, but pretty flawed. The action scenes for the actual derbies are dynamic and cool, the practice scenes can be kind of fun at times, and seeing Sunny go through emotional distress did make her a more interesting and fleshed out character, and the artwork for the most part looks nice as well. But you got the one-dimensional bully characters that just downplay the drama, and Tracy's backstory is kind of lackluster, and there are just so many different baffling plot points that just hurt the overall enjoyment of the arc. Maybe if you like roller derby, you'll get a kick out of this, but otherwise, I'd skip this one. Well, that's it for today, guys. Until next time, and see ya!